And I heard another voice from heaven, saying, Come out of her, my people, that you be not partakers of her sins, and that you receive not of her plagues. For her sins have reached into heaven, and Elohim hath remembered her plagues.
Okay, thank you everybody for coming to the call, exiting Babylon, correcting your status, and that is our focus of how do we maneuver through these tangled webs that have been laid before us and work our way into a self-governing state, if you will, and what exactly do we need to do to remove the presumptions that we are incompetent, enemies of the state, wards of the state, and in need of this special care that we're given by the bar card holders as our powers of attorney. So with that, we have some wonderful people here tonight. Greg Johnson, Mary from Colorado Springs has joined us. Marshall Thompson.
She's in Pueblo.
Oh, Pueblo, I'm sorry. Yep. And she has some wonderful information to bring forward to us. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and open the floor for Mary to give us the lowdown.
Well, for those of you, I thought this was being taped earlier, so Greg, I'll just repeat a little bit. For probably a more complete discussion of this, if you go to our Wednesday night class, the We the People assembled in Colorado at that phone number that Greg put on the thing that before it was 719-775-7039.
712-775-7039. Playback access code 782-102 £.
Yeah, there's the playback. So if any of you want to listen to this again or whatever I forget to tell you, it's there. And I don't know which week it was. I'm going to guess about week 2, but I don't know it. On the Four Corners to tell you. I got my passport in 2012. I was green as a gourd. My friend in Arkansas told me about it, and I said, sure, because my driver's license it had expired at my last birthday, and I did not want to get a driver's license. So I applied for it. I got the DS-11, filled it out, and did what it said to do, took it up to Florence, and got there, and they said we had the wrong year, which was fortunate, because then she handed me the correct DS-11. Well, that gave me my working copy, and she had put the round stamp on the front that the post office had received it. So I thought, well, that's good. I can keep it if I ever need it for any kind of evidence with these thugs and lion vermin that we have to deal with every day. Anyway, got it. It took me a long time to get it because they kept stalling. And I fully believe that they do that because they're going to lose one of their economic slaves. Well, later on, Vaughn told me that is just a stall tactic, and if should any of you do the DS-11 and you start to get any kind of a stall on it, just say, I'm going to talk to your supervisor. And because he says that the minute that's received at the Department of Secretary of State in their passport division, it's already a done deal. You've got it. You just have to get the card sent to you from them. Well, I went ahead and sent them some things they asked for, and one of the things they asked for was, do you have a driver's license? And I said, no. I have one years back that is expired. Oh, well, that's okay. Send that to us. I said, you want an expired one? And they said, yes, that's fine. I said, okay. So I made a copy of it for my records, and I sent that to them with all the other things they wanted. And then heard nothing more. And finally I got disgusted, and I went down to Scott Tipton's office in the 3rd District. And I told Brian, I said, look, I've got some problems. I've applied for it. I want my passport. He said, oh, this is an easy one. So he took the information. I said, you wanted this? He said, no. I'm going to send this to the liaison, somebody wherever he was sending it. He says, you'll have your passport in about 10 days. And I did. Now, I didn't comprehend the meaning of all of this. I looked at it and I thought, oh, this doesn't look too sharp. It's got a capital letter name, and I hope this is right. I told Vaughn, I said, you sure this works? And he said, yes. so I just let it go at that. Well, time passes, and the insurance, our automobile insurance expired, and I just didn't even get any more. I didn't want to. Well, then Pueblo started cracking down. If you don't have proof of insurance or whatever, they're really going to come after you big time. I said, I don't have time to fight with this thing. So, grudgingly, not happily, I picked up the phone and I called Geico. And I told them what I wanted, and they wrote me a policy that night and told me how much it was going to be. And I said, fine. So I had them put the first month on the Discover card and then went on my way. Then here comes the bill, and we discharged that later on for 6 months. And then I can't remember now exactly. Oh, then later on, we needed to get a different homeowner's policy. And so went through the same thing with Geico. Oh, I'm back on the passport. When I was applying for the insurance, they did not ask me for a driver's license number, nor did I volunteer. Key word, folks, volunteer. I didn't say a word. They didn't say anything, and I said nothing. I thought, well, they'll catch up with me at some time. Well, they finally did. So when they started checking this, they found out that it had been expired. It was either canceled. No, it was expired, I guess it was, or whatever it was. And that was after we got the homeowners thing. Well, then I got through with all of that and had an opportunity to speak to somebody about the driver's license and the passport and the right to contract, et cetera. Then I was delayed for a couple of weeks due to circumstances at home. Then I went on to see if they've got this homeowners thing, and there was something that says, Mary, need to do something about your driver's license. I thought, oh, my goodness, now what I've got to deal with. So I thought, well, might as well get the bad news. So I clicked it on, and wow, here popped up it said, we need 2 numbers from your passport. I thought, okay, which ones do you need? So I thought, well, under the top, by the upper right-hand corner was a CO and some numbers. I think it starts with a 9. And then I said that one. I said, no, we want the one that has the N for north. We want that number with the 9 digits. So I gave that to them. Well, lo and behold, those 9 digits are the same. Your driver's license has 9 digits, and so does that N number. They said, we don't need the N, we just need the digits. So I did that, and lo and behold, that one starts with 99. And I think that under where it says CO, I think it starts with 9 also. I didn't say anything about it. And they said, thank you, everything done, international traveling warrant. That confirmed that I did not have to, that I now have been recognized as a people that has the unalienable right to travel. I do not have to have a driver's license, nor do I have to have insurance or anything else. Now, if I choose to contract, which is what I'm doing with Geico, then that's also my unalienable right to contract. And the beautiful part is if they give me any static, no state can impair an obligation to contract. So at the present time, that's where it is. Well, then, let me see. That was an exciting time. Well, then I picked up the phone and I called Vaughn. And I said, guess what, Vaughn? With all those conversations we had about this international traveling thing, that I just found out I've got it. And he said, what? And I told him about the number N. So he said, okay, so he excitedly tried it, and lo and behold, it worked. Then, and I didn't know what made it work, but it did. So then I guess the next day, and this is something that I don't think it's on his website, he wanted to see if he could be free from sales tax. So he went into Walmart, and he had his passport card, and he bought something, and he wanted to become exempt from sales tax. So he met with somebody at Walmart, and they talked about this. One of the ladies was not as, she was more laid back and wanting to listen, and the other was a little bit more aggressive and not so nice. And so finally, he just said, he says, look, ladies, put that number in, do your particular thing, and that card will take care of anything that the state wants as far as information that you can become tax exempt. And a lot of it has to do with 911 and so forth. He just gave them a line of Mickey Mouse, and they did. And sure enough, bing, up comes the tax exempt. Now, I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, yesterday I believe it was, Sunday, yeah, that's right, Sunday, And she was talking, because I called and I said, guess what? Got the international traveling warrant. And you guys have got your passport because they got theirs, they applied for theirs about the same time as I did mine. And I said, found out, how did I put that? About tax exempt or something. So I said something to her, and her son Lars had his passport, and she had hers, and they were not getting much success with it. And I said, well, what's going on? She says, well, we tried to get some insurance, but because we couldn't get a credit rating, now listen closely, folks, because we couldn't get a credit rating, they had no way to track our credit. She says, and ours is awful. And then there was something else. She says it comes up blocked. I said, oh, really? How interesting. Well, you know what's interesting about that, folks? That means that line of credit goes to the fiction, the all-cap name, not the people. So all of this credit rating and having to have a Social Security number and all of that is for the all-cap name, and it's blocked. And she said, well, what am I going to do? And I said, well, I'm not quite sure, but call Geico. Maybe they can help you because that's who I got ours through. So I'm just beginning to believe that if you ever get stopped or you have to do something, you pull out your passport card, and then given that number, they plug that into their machine. And I do believe that's why Vaughn has had so much success of being said, the cops or the state patrol guy says, thank you, sir, have a good evening, drives carefully. They don't cite him, they don't ticket him, nothing, because the screen comes up blocked. Your stupid statutes, codes, rules, regulations that have made us into economic slaves cannot, it cannot be used on a people. And I found a court case somewhere. I was trying to find it, but I haven't had time to research my tons of paper. And it's something about the people cannot be taxed. And it's sure enough, there's a way it's appearing to work. Now, I didn't get something done today, and I don't want to talk about it. If I have the success, then I'll get back with Greg or something, and I'll tell you. But I'm looking at another situation. Well, I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm going to try the same thing with property tax. And I believe that is equally as true. Because if the people are not to be taxed, the property tax is a direct tax, and it should not be done because that's in Article 1, Section 3, a direct tax and so forth. So I'm going to try it. And if that works, then yay, whoopee. Now then, our property is no longer going to be taxed. And I'll let you know how that goes. I didn't get a chance to do that today. Let's see, was there anything else I wanted to say? Oh, I also did some Googling, and I put in something about the history. What I don't know how the question went, but something about I'd like to know what the numbers and the words mean on the passport card. And I Googled it, and there's some different things. I started scrolling around, and something came up, and it said there's the number 9 or 9 somewhere, or maybe scattered throughout the passport. And when that number 9 comes up and they run your card, it comes up and says, you are not a United States citizen. You're a non-citizen national. Well, whoopee. How much more status relief do you need than that? Exit Babylon, you just did. And that's with the passport card. So that's why I'm just so adamant about people getting their passport cards. And I fully believe that a lot of our anxiety, I think DSS would have to settle down and a lot of other things because your children were given over by their mother with the birth certificate and the fraud that they executed on the mother. I did the same thing with my kids, so I'm just as guilty because my mother did it to me. And but I think that would be one thing that would help keep them from coming after you because the people created their contract. We were given the authority to create the government, and they have to get our consent. And if they don't have the consent, there is no contract. Now, I know that's difficult, but that's the way it is. And I fully believe that an event that took place, well, you know, our kidnapped 8, I think if they had their passport cards, they would not have been kidnapped because they can't cross, they can't get by the blocked. Blocked means I can't come and get you because you are out of my reach. And it's really kind of neat. Now, maybe I'm speaking too early, but so far I've had no problems. And I don't know what else to say, except that I know Greg did say the other night that he confirmed there's something about the letter 9, and it did say it. Is that correct, Greg?
At this time, I'm not recalling what you're talking about, but I'm going to go along.
Wednesday night when I talked about the letter 9, and you said yes, you had done that, and something came up when you were trying to do something with getting your passport.
My particular case, they've refused me completely.
Why?
Because I didn't like the fact that I did not give them the assigned 9-digit number for the legal fiction, and they didn't like my ID, privately issued, notarized, and witnessed.
Well, now, if you just do the DS11, folks, and where you get down to
I did all that. I've done basically the dilemma is that if I go through that again, it'll be my fourth effort, and they've already got me marked in probably as a dissident or something of that nature. I went after the card, which went to Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and they didn't like the ID. They didn't like I didn't give them the Social Security number, and 3 rounds of paper tennis. And my appeal is still sitting in District of Columbia with the Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for for Consular Affairs and Passport Services, and hopefully it's the same one that was under Obama, but if not, then so be it. At any event, it's sitting with that woman on District of Columbia, the Harry S. Truman building, at last check. And she has not gotten back with me at all, and that was in November last year.
Well, when I did my passport, I also sent some affidavits that was in support of. Folks, if you do the 9/11, study that application, study it and restudy it. I studied it for quite a long time. I had a yellow marker. I marked this, and there's something on there that says if you give the Social Security number, it goes right to the Department of Treasury that allows them to collect on you. That's why mine has all zeros for Social Security number.
I did the same thing.
I know, and that's why the zip code has all zeros. And then when they would call me and ask something, well, what's your Social Security number? And
that's the fascinating part, Mary. They called you. I did everything but give them send them a prepaid cell phone to get a hold of me, and they didn't. They just sent an email.
Well, they called me and asked for different things, and I sent it to them. But on that DS11. Yeah. And if you folks have not taken it off the Internet, you need to get it and study it. There's one of those places, I don't have mine handy right now, I put it in the file cabinet, but it says that everything they ask is voluntary. And I would tell them, I said, according to your application, everything is voluntary. So I volunteered to tell you what my Social Security number is. It's all zero. Now, if you want that other name, that all-cap name, that one is, and then I gave it to them. That satisfied them. I gave them something.
Okay.
Well, let me share with you how my experience has gone with the DS11. In the Exiting the Matrix series, which Justice Johnson, I know you were in there, and I think it was number 7, where an example of how to do the application was given, and I went and got like 10 applications, okay? I wanted to make sure that I could perfect this document, and I did, and I filled it out exactly the way that the instructions were given, which no Social Security number in care of, and all of the right stuff. They never once, no one ever asked me for my Social Security number. They took my picture, did the whole thing. The card and the book came in a timely manner, and I studied the card, which is now, I've misplaced it, I can't find it. But when I was studying the card, something had come up about there being 5 stars, or sometimes 4 stars, and that was kind of an identifier of whether or not it was the right one. And so it didn't appear to me that I had the right one. I contacted them and, brought this to their attention. And they said that I needed to send something to tell them why I was not a U.S. citizen. And I put it aside for a while, and now I've gone back through Vaughn's material, Mary, and because I did fill the application out correctly, if they, by their error, somehow did not do their job right, I can't be made responsible for that. Correct?
Well, I should say not. I don't know, folks, but I don't know whether you'd have any success in getting with your, quote, U.S. representative, which is strictly representing the corporate, or not. I had good luck with Brian McCain, and he helped me, and I got it. Now, I don't know whether any of the other fictional representatives will help you or not, but he did, because he also knows that I know the law and didn't give me any trouble. But I do have it. And one of the things that I've just now pulled out my application, please make sure you sign non-citizen national, because if you don't do that, then you hang yourself. Then, like I told you, I studied this thing up one side and did the proof of U.S. citizenship. I didn't want any proof of it, so I read it, but I didn't want anything to do with it. And then proof of identity, a certificate of citizenship. I didn't do that because citizenship is for the fiction, not for the people. The word citizen, citizenship, resident, stay away from those words. You must identify your satisfaction of the accepting agent and passport services.
Well, see, this came up in Vaughn's material, though, because he refers to state citizen.
I know, and I've got to tell Vaughn that he needs to change that wording. I just do not approve of the word citizen, and we had quite a discussion about that on the Wednesday night call. Stay away from that word. Yep. You're welcome. Stay away from that word.
That's the reason why the DS-11 application, when you're signing the perjury statement, citizen or non-citizen national, they got to recognize the non-citizen national. Now, anyway, they did have the application back around 2000, because I was heading that way, heading for a passport situation back then, in which the swear statement did not have the two in there. It only had the one. Apparently, somebody said, "Wait a minute, we got to start recognizing non-citizens, or we're going to have a problem here." So that's when they put the term in, and that's directly out of Title 22 of the U.S. Code. I yield the floor.
All right. Now, are you talking about page 102 on the application itself, Greg? It says, do not sign application until requested to do so by an authorized agent. That's the one. You see, yeah. I am a citizen or a non-citizen national. And that's what Greg was saying. I'm a citizen. No, you're not. You're not a little C, a big C. I don't care if it's red, pink, or polka dotted. You are not a citizen. You're not a resident. You are a people. You are a man. You are a woman. And that's what the Declaration of Independence says. And that's the status that I fully believe that people have got to get through their pumpkin heads. And I know we've been conditioned so very much to do differently, but, that's just part of their scheme of doing things. Now, I'm not sure.
You and I both know that we both know terms have meaning, and we don't get that definition, we're in trouble.
Absolutely. Now, I refuse to change my Social Security number. I put all zeros. I put a zero with a slash through it on the Social Security number line. I put my email address out there, and I put my phone number, and then I put my mailing address was in care of 3 Villa Place, Pueblo, Colorado, and the reason it's in care of is because I don't dwell in the mailbox. My mail does. I don't live in that mailbox. So it's in care of.
You read that book too, huh?
Yeah. Of that
the Errant Sovereign with Augustus Blackstone?
I don't know which one, Greg. I read so many things I can't keep up with it. But basically, the in care of, and then they will tell you somewhere on this application that you should receive your mail in care of. And so that's fine with me. Then, of course, I went over onto the other side. Now, remember, I did this in 2014. The new applications are different. It's on page 10 of the new ones, some of the things that mine was on the very front page. On the very front page, they come up very quickly, the second paragraph. U.S. passports, either in book or card format, are issued only to, this is on page 1, the second paragraph, U.S. citizens, all capitalized words, or non-citizen nationals. That was on the first page. Now, that statement is on number 10 now in the new application. And then, of course, I put my husband's name in there, my parents' name, and they were all non-citizen nationals. And did what they told me to do, sent it away, and after fighting with them and being nice, and finally I got tired of being nice, and I said, enough of this. And then later on, Vaughn told me that that's just their stall tactic. Ask for their supervisor, and that will bring some of that to a screeching halt. Now, Privacy Act statement. Your Social Security numbers will be provided to the U.S. Department of Treasury, and failure to provide it may subject you to a penalty as described in federal tax law provision. It also may be used for identification, verification for passport adjudication in the connection with debt collecting. Oh, my goodness. That kind of sounds like what IRS does, or anybody else that's trying to collect something from you. That Social Security number, that zip code, all put you into that 14th Amendment United States jurisdiction citizen, resident. I'm not that. And so
thank you, Mary. And you know what? You're absolutely right. The law states that it's a felony for them to compel that information. And it's time that we stand up for that. We have gotten into so much trouble over the years by being so free in giving that private information to every Joe that works for the electric companies or the phone companies or whatever. And rarely do we even have maybe even a first name on who's taking that private information or compelling that private information. And now I do believe that has had a terrible effect on all of us and our freedom. And since the laws are out there that protect us from that, it's time to use that and stand up to them. We started preparing a document that could be sent out to any local or any regular vendors that you may deal with that compel that information, to give them a warning. And then after you've given them that warning, then it's time to hit them with the law and hold them accountable.
Well,
in my
I
opinion,
hope I don't have to do that. Let me just conclude with this because I'm taking up too much time. Go Google dmv.org, and it's a booklet of 6 pages. In this one, on page 1 of 6, and write this down, folks, if you're going to listen to this, because I found this very interesting, because they're really trying to trap you. And I just noticed it on my passport, my application. They're talking about the electronic passport statement. That's the one that's got the chip in. That's only for United States citizens, not our people. And in this dmv.org website, and enhanced driver's license, dmv.org, page 1 of 6, it talks about the passport card and enhanced driver's license. I don't care about that. Passport cards. Read it closely because it says a U.S. passport card, also known as a pass card, is less expensive, wallet-sized version of a traditional passport with a few travel conditions. Pass cards come equipped with a microchip that assigns a distinct number to its owner. What did we just say about the electronic passport statement? It's chipped. It's to keep tabs on their little citizens, their little economic slaves. Then moving on down that page, differences, passport card versus passport. and then it says traditional passports are valid for international travel by air, sea, and land. That's what GEICO just acknowledged when they said you have an international traveling warrant. Warrant meaning authentication that this is a real thing. The passport card lets you re-enter the U.S. Yes, that's very true. Moving to page 2 of 6, applying for a passport card. Now, be careful. All U.S. citizens can apply for a passport card. However, if you already have a valid traditional passport, you don't need a passport card. See what they're doing? Passport card for U.S. citizens. And then it goes on down, and I just kind of skimming down the rest of that page.
What was that site again?
I'm sorry, what? Did you want what?
What was that site again?
DMV.org.
Delta November Zebra?
No, Delta, what did you say? MV is in victory. Victor, dmvictor.org.
Got it. Okay.
Study this page. I had to study it quite a few times to try to get the gist of it. I was trying to figure out what they were saying. And then when it dawned on me, U.S. citizens can only apply for a passport card. Be careful. I was after the passport. And then it talks about how to get some of this. Then another thing that's, let's see, I don't know, applying for a passport card. It's just saying the same thing. U.S. citizens can apply for a passport card. If you already have a valid traditional passport, you don't need a passport card to travel internationally. I have the passport. That's why GEICO recognized me as having an international traveling warrant. And I fully believe that the passport card you get when you say you're a United States citizen. When you say non-citizen national, you get the valid traditional passport. Because they all look alike, but it's what they put on those. But it's that application. And just as another something that I would suggest, if any of you do this, make 2 copies. I did a pencil copy, a working paper one. Then after I knew it was like I wanted it, then I did the ink one. And I took mine to Florence because you have to wait to make an appointment here in Pueblo. And because I didn't realize I had a wrong year, she already put the round stamp on the front of the one that the post office had it. So I keep that. But I suggest that you take 2 of them up there and just ask them to file stamp yours so that you can keep it. If you ever need to show a thief, thug, and lion, vermin, cop, state patrol, or whatever, somebody to validate who you are, you've got the application. You can show them, look at it. There it shows that I checked it, non-citizen national. But with the experiences I've had recently, I do believe that when they punch in your name and you say, now use that number, it's blocked. And it's blocked because they can't touch you, a people. They can only harass and go after this United States citizen. And in my opinion, the very best thing you can have is to have the passport, and that's the best way to exit Babylon. That's my opinion. And so far it's proved to be very helpful. And I don't have anything else that I can say, except I'll let you know how I come along with the property tax thing.
Thank you very much, Mary. That's really wonderful information. Have you had a chance to study your card and see if you can see how many stars are on
Well,
there?
I don't know. I haven't heard anything about stars. Have you, Greg, when you did any Googling with passports to see if you can find out what the wording or numbering system means?
Oh, I have my suspicions. No stars is U.S. citizen. 1 star or 2 star probably U.S. citizen. 3, I think, is the first level of non-citizen national. 5 is a non-citizen national. I think there's even possibly a couple more that end up in the ambassador department. But that's a speculation on my part.
Well, then I would suggest you Google passport and ask them what does or what does the use of stars or the use of stars? What does stars or something get this? Put the word stars.
Those are kind of the sneaky thing. They're holographic, so you don't see them just looking straight onto the card normally. You have to, look at it under a light and sometimes take a magnifying glass.
Well, if you have to do
and
that,
study it.
Then I think that the same thing as a chip. You get the chip, you're already designated as a U.S. citizen. You can have 3 stars, 10 or 20. It doesn't make any difference. You're still going to be, harassed or made to comply with their crappy nonsense.
Well, certainly is an interesting study, and, we do need to pursue things from here.
Greg, did you have a question?
No, that was me. I was just going to make a comment that I do know that Justice Embry was glad that she had the 3 stars, and I think Justice Mickey has 5 stars, but they don't know why each one has different.
And I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that's the question.
If
you Google the passport, and then make a question to ask them about what was the intended use of stars on the passport. Maybe that'll give you something.
Yeah, I'm actually encouraged, whether it's 3 stars, 4 stars, or 5 stars. I'm encouraged myself because personally I know I did the application correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and request, go through whatever process I need to request a certified copy of the application.
And you can get it, but it takes a long time.
What happened? You ended up doing that?
No, I didn't, but my friend did, and it took a long time to get that certified copy. I just don't think they want you to have one. That's why I said make 2 of them. If you get that round stamp put on the front of your passport application, they know that the post office has got it. And I just think that's essential. And if you want to, take the application down and record in the public record. It's a lot cheaper than sending them $50, $60. And that's what it costs to get a certified application, $50 or $60. And it takes a while to get it. Folks, they just don't want this information out.
No, they don't. But of course they don't. That causes them to lose a lot of control.
How about revenue?
Well, in revenue's okay when it doesn't involve corruption and harming.
You tell me when it doesn't. When you got the Fed in here, it's all that. The bottom line, any licenses has 2 purposes, to finance the corporation and control.
Indeed, which is why, we do what we do here, because we have to stop propping up this system that is ravenous and harms and destroys and ruins life.
Let me give you a court case about licenses. Quote, the acceptance of a license in whatever form will not impose upon the licensee an obligation to respect or to comply with any provision of the statute or with the regulations prescribed that are repugnant to the Constitution and they have of the United States. W.W. Cargill Company versus State of Minnesota, 180 U.S. 452, 1901, 180 U.S. 452.
Thank you.
Now,
well, thank you once again, Mary, for bringing so much wonderful and valuable information forward for us, and for being willing to step out and be brave in all of this and take these steps to correct your status and correct the records.
Well, and again, I say, I believe that this is the best way to exit Babylon. I realize that a lot of people have done all these affidavits. Wonderful. They ignore them. You put in the public record. They ignore them. They deny it. And like Steve Byfield would say, well, it's self-evident that I'm a man. Fine. But guess what? Steve is one of our kidnappees. He didn't get the passport, and he was always not too happy that I got mine, but I did it anyway, and I'm just delighted that I did. And Naughty has one. He has a passport, but he also has a driver's license. So, in my opinion, he nullified his own passport because the driver's license connects you to the U.S. citizen, all that junk, but the passport made you free.
True that. And I think, what another thing that's going on in my mind here is that I was just going to let the driver's license expire, and not renew. However, there's still too much time left on that. If it's going to end up being like some kind of an adhesion contract, then my thinking is that, well, then I shouldn't have it, and I should just use my passport.
Well, let me just
forward.
say, just another thought along that line. When they ask you for some kinds of identification, I didn't have the driver's license. It expired, and I don't even know what I did with the stupid thing. And I couldn't really find it, and I still don't know where it is. I don't know what I did with it. I didn't send it. That's when they came back and asked me for it, and that's when I sent it. And so, according to Vaughn, he believes that because I don't have the driver's license, they're in possession of it, that was a step in the right direction. And so his suggestion now is to do a rescission of the driver's license if you're not asked to submit it. So, therefore, I'm saying, folks, if you do apply for the passport, be sure you include your driver's license. Now then, little dear, that puts you without any evidence of what you've got, and I guess just be careful and hope that you can get your driver's license. And I think I would go down to your representative and or senator who's supposed to only represent the state, but you know what that fraud is. And I just kindly say, I'm having a great deal of trouble getting my passport. I've done the paperwork. They are being very obstinate and stubborn and refuse to acknowledge the fact that I have this right, and I want your help. And let them tell you no. They better not.
Well, actually, after careful thought on all of this, I'm not so certain that I got the wrong thing. Even though they said that I needed to prove why I wasn't a U.S. citizen or whatever that nonsense was, I'm not really sure that I got the wrong thing.
What were you talking about? They wanted you to prove that you were a United States citizen?
Right. Initially, when it came back, I may have been over.
What came back?
When the passport came and the card came, not came back, but when the passport and the card came after I did the DS-11, I panicked, and I may have been just too stressed or something, and really thought that it just didn't show that I was a non-citizen. And
little dear,
so,
stop. Got your message. I didn't see anything inside of Cafe After Vaughn. Well, these don't look any different than anything else. He said, but your application was. It wasn't until Geico allowed me to get insurance, and then when they asked that, it said that it was canceled or something. It wasn't suspended, but it was canceled. And
right.
When that happened, and then I told them, when I did with Geico, I think I even emailed them a copy of my passport so they had it to see it was a real passport, and they probably ran that in number just to see what would happen. And I fully believe that it is that in number that separates you from the U.S. citizenship and the non-citizen national. It has to be, because otherwise this screen wouldn't come up blocked. Now, Vaughn used to tell me when they run that, they'll get a red screen. Well, I don't know if it's red, pink, or blue, but it's blocked. And it's blocked because that passport separates you from that United States citizen that is supposed to kowtow to all of this kind of stuff. and I'm not a piece.
Well, and you know what? You're not the only one that I've heard that from. I heard it during the Exiting the Matrix series, which I encourage anybody who's interested in this process to go back and listen to those. They were excellent. And that came out multiple times.
What came up? What came up?
How important that passport is.
Oh. Well, look, let's do some common sense. That card comes from the United States Secretary of the United States Secretary of State. It's that entity that's in D.C. It's from them on their card. What more do you need if you have filled it in as a non-citizen national? They have recognized you as a people. They sent you the card, and that N number does the trick. You don't need anything else.
But I'm going to be really curious to see how this goes going forward. For many of us, and
I don't know what to tell you if you've tried, and they have not. They rebuffed you. I would take all my paperwork. Well, I took my stuff down to Brian McCain, and I said, "Look, this is what I've tried to do." He said, "I don't need any of that." He said he did what he did, and 10 days later, here was my card.
And see, they sent mine so quickly and everything, and never once asked for anything. No phone calls, no emails, nothing.
If you put in non-citizen national, that's what you are. You need to find your card.
Actually, I already ordered a replacement.
Okay.
I think I just had too many things going on at the same time.
Then when I get that card, I'd be getting in touch with DSS and tell them to run that card, run that number, and do something with what do we have to do to get your kids back, because you are a people, and they have no right to kidnap your children without due process of law. I think you'll find that number will be real helpful. Is there anything else, you guys?
Yeah, if I may.
Yes,
please.
I guess.
This is Marshall Pruitt, senior in Missouri. I just had a question. You mentioned including your driver's license when you send in your paperwork. You send them your driver's license as well.
I would send them a copy of it, perhaps, because you might need something in case of the nonsense out here.
Right.
And I didn't, because I didn't have one. I didn't know if they'd want the one that had a hole in it, when it expired. And I didn't send them one. And then they asked me for it. And Vaughn believes that the fact that you no longer have that card in your hands is what is so beautiful about separating you now as the right to travel versus the statutory privilege of obeying all their statutes.
Well, I took my plates off my rig, and David, my son David, Chief Marshal Pruitt, he knows enough that he can battle with them. I'm just learning. Anyhow, I sent in my paperwork. He helped me fill it out for my passport and sent it off like 5 months ago. And I finally got a thing back. They want me to fill out another form, and they want me to include my Social Security number, all that kind of jazz. And I've got the paperwork from the form off of Moonshine Stills to affidavit of complaining victim of a felony.
Just remind them that on their instructions they say it's all voluntary, and I'm volunteering not to give it to you, and it's on your instructions of the DS-11, and that should be enough.
Okay.
If it says on there, it's voluntary.
It's a felony to compel that private information. I would bring out the code.
Well,
I'm going to send them. I'm going to fill out this affidavit that I got off a Copper Moonshine Stills. I'm going to fill that out, and I'm going to send them a copy of that. And I'm going to go ahead and send it off to you're supposed to send it here to says Federal Bureau of Investigation, 601 4th Street, NW, Northwest.
Yep.
DC.
The felony affidavit of a felony. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good one.
Affidavit of complaining victim of a felony. And it gives them the code right here, violation of 42 U.S. Code 408A-8. Now,
right.
I know that this thing carries some weight because I got in it with the bank, and when I gave them this code to look up, and they looked it up, when they talked to me the next time, it was, well, as soon as you're ready to start a new bank account without your Social Security number on it, you just come in and talk to us, and we'll take care of it.
Okay. Now, see, that's almost proof that N number. Do you have a passport card, or do they still keeping it from you?
No, I haven't got one yet. I've never had one before.
Does your son have one?
No, he hasn't got his either.
Okay, I'm just interested if all of those numbers at the lower left-hand corner all start with an N for November, or if there's different numbers for different states. I don't know.
I wouldn't know. Well, my birthday is in November, and so is his. His is the 2nd of November, and mine's the 4th.
Well, mine isn't. I don't think it has anything to do with it. I'm just wondering if that N is for all non-citizen nationals, regardless of which continental state you live in, or if it's a different number per continental state. Like Missouri, does it have a different number than an N?
That would be interesting.
I don't know. I believe in Arizona they had the N, the November 9-digit thing. So maybe it doesn't. I don't know. But that's an interesting thing to ask. What's the history of the meaning of the N in front of the 9-digit number? Then maybe you could find something out if you Google and study about passports. But my best thing is study that application. It all says on there it's voluntary. Well, if it's voluntary, why are you compelling me to give you something that is voluntary by your own application? See, these call people that are the gatekeepers to the supervisors, and they try to trick you, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah, the whole thing is a trap.
Scam.
A
scam and a scheme, you betcha.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Everything the government, the de facto, is doing is a con.
It's right. Yep. And a lot of people can yell and scream about Trump, but I do think he is attempting to try to straighten some of this stuff out. I do think he is. Because making America great again cannot use the word America and mean that U.S. corporation, in my opinion.
That's
That's
a nice thing there. Yeah.
He has.
There's been over 3,500 arrests in this pedophile ring thing, you guys. So this big old pedophile thing that's going on, is it's very serious.
Well,
more serious now than ever. Huh?
When are they going to get the Clintons?
It's coming up. There's been official charges. They're going after them. They are.
Yeah.
They're still protected by the Vatican Illuminati cabal until the Vatican decides it's not worth their time or their effort to do so any longer.
A lot of internal turmoil right now. I mean, we have to have confidence that we do have good people on the inside of everywhere, who are fighting very hard to bring this thing to a close once and for all. It's just the battle of millennia. It really is. This is a sickness that has gone on for thousands of years. They've been sacrificing children to Moloch and doing satanic rituals and whatnot.
Well, that's what CPS is all about, is to take children away, and then once the parents are out of the picture, then they
I know.
do what they want.
All too well.
Yeah.
I was an activist
One
against
more thing
pedophilia
Yes.
before my children were taken, and I'm convinced that there was a link, between my activism and what was coming out, and everything that happened. They saw me coming before I saw me coming because of the activism.
Do you know Lori Anderson?
Are you talking to me?
No, not now, Mary. I was gonna mention something to you, and then I hear her talking about her children, and one of my daughters was kidnapped without any paperwork, court orders, nothing, just kidnapped by the system. Anyway, we ended up getting her back about 6 weeks later, but it was a fight, and literally had to not threaten, but inform the sheriff's department and the CPS and everybody else that if they proceeded any further, that they were all going to be in jail because they were all violating U.S. Code 241 and 242.
That's
and so David actually was David and Lori Anderson and Bruce Doucette are the reason why we got our daughter back. They had no intentions on letting us have her back whatsoever, but they helped us. And Lori Anderson is awesome. She got all the DUNS numbers of everybody. She made calls to the head of the family services, which is CPS here. It's called Family Services, and made complaints, asked lots of questions, made complaints, all kinds of stuff. Called the governor, called the sheriff. She's awesome. She has worked with CPS for I think about 25 years or something like that, a long time, maybe 30. She was an advocate for a child advocate. I can't remember what she called it anyway. And so she knows all of their dirty tricks. She knows how they do it, why they do it, and she knows how to get enough heat on them to make them decide that they just don't want to play in the sandbox anymore.
Making it very uncomfortable for them.
Yes, she did. I never found out for sure exactly what happened, but I do know that that she drew enough attention that I would imagine the CPS worker that initiated all this probably doesn't have a job anymore. I mean, she brought down a lot of heat. So if you don't know her, you can actually get on YouTube and find her. She has videos and stuff. Matter of fact, one of them was about us. If you look up, I think she named the show she did, and that was just when the things were starting, but she called it Is Missouri Department of Family Services Guilty of Kidnapping or something like that. And she put that out there, and boy, they were returning her calls, and finally we just went and got her. Literally just went and got her. And when the sheriff showed up to try and stop us, well, it wasn't me. I wasn't there. My son and my wife were. When he tried to stop them, told them that it wasn't going to happen, and if they did try and take her, that there would be charges. And David informed them of what the law was and what they had violated of their own statutes and codes. And let's just say nothing ever materialized out of it. No charges, no further nothing. Of course, I sent my family. That's why my family's out in California right now, and I'm still back here.
God help those who find themselves, low on support systems and in, a totally corrupt area. Because as much as I have stood up for the truth, brought out the criminal activity, and stood on it hard and, without wavering, I think when you don't have other people in your arena where, maybe will show up for court or something, they'll rape and pillage you. And then they gang stalk you, too.
Is there anything else you want from me, folks, because I need to go?
I'm good. Anybody have any questions for Mary?
I just want to say thank you, Mary. And remember that, Mary, 42 U.S. Code 408.
I know it.
Yeah. Okay. Good, because I've had everything from the satellite company to the telephone company to everybody asking me for my Social Security number. I informed them that I no longer use it, and it is a felony for you to ask for it. And they will start arguing with me, and I will read them the law, and I will tell them to look it up on their computer, and the next thing you know, all of a sudden, we're sorry, sir. How can we help you?
Right, because when they use that, that Social Security number to block you from taking care of your business, that's a problem. And they do it all the time.
What was that code site again?
Title 42, 408A.
No, it's
42 USC.
USC 408A-8.
Mm-hmm. It says whoever discloses, uses, or compels the disclosure of a Social Security number of any person in violation of the laws of the United States shall be guilty of a felon. Upon conviction thereof shall be fined under Title 18 or in prison for not more than 5 years or both. You see, the Social Security number is for a person, not a people.
Yep.
Folks, I've got to go unless there's something else.
Thank you much, Mary. God bless.
Thank you, Mary.
Yeah, you're welcome. Bye.
Good night.
Thank you, Mary. Bye.
Okay, well, that was wonderful information, huh?
Yeah, what was that title again? Title 42?
It's 42 USC 408A-8.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Is this Townsend?
Yes, it is. How you doing, Marshall Pruitt?
Marshall Pruitt. I sent you a message on Facebook. I think it was you. I sent you a message trying to get your phone number because I wanted to throw something by you.
Sure. I'll text it to you.
Okay.
I think I had. Yeah, I had. No, I don't have yours. I have your son's.
Oh, you can. Well, does he have your number?
He sure does.
Okay. Well,
yeah, get it from him, and then just send me whatever. Or give me a yell. Just if I don't answer, leave a message, and I'll call you right back. Okay.
All right. Sound good.
Yes, sir.
Marshall Townsend.
Yes, ma'am.
Good night,
Would
everybody.
you please share with us what you know and think about status correction and exiting Babylon and anything that you could bring forward?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. There's a lot of things that y'all have done in that exiting Babylon that I have done none of. I'm to be honest with you, a lot of this is new to me. And the reason I say that is because I just got into it as a people. I just started claiming to be a people and not a person. And I fight them in a court of law as a people. And so by doing that, in my opinion, I'm telling them I'm not part of their system. And so they need to go and study the laws, or they're going to continue to get sued. So that's actually what I do. And I can't guarantee that it works because it doesn't mean I'm not going to get arrested tomorrow, like I tell everybody. But as of yet, I've only been arrested twice. So for driving without a license.
When we were several of us were doing Exiting the Matrix,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of what came out that I, myself got was part of this is making yourself invisible. So when Mary's talking about everything is blocked, well, that's
right.
kind of, along the same lines of other ways of explaining, that I've heard. Because another way is that it makes, there's certain things that make you like invisible.
Well, and that's the one thing I would say. The difference is I like Mary's way better, to be honest with you, because you're taking yourself out of their reach before they ever get to you.
Thank you.
What I did was I waited till they grabbed me twice and sue them in a court of law and end up winning, but it's the hassle of having to go through all that
right
when it wasn't necessary if we would have done it right the first time. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So
yes.
There are different ways of doing it. And that's why
Absolutely.
I never tell anybody your way isn't right, because that's not true. Because I can give you probably 3 or 4 different testimonies of people that have done it different ways and said my way is the right way.
Right. And we have to be careful because remember we're removing ourselves as enemy combatants. So the last thing you want to do is act like an enemy combatant with them, right?
Well, and see, that's even what the Texas Ranger brought up in my home. He said, "Well, if we come back, is there going to be a problem?" And I said, "No." I said, "I don't fight you physically here. I fight you in court." I said, "I fight you with the law because I know what the law is." And I said, "So no, I'm not going to physically fight you." I said, "Will there come a day that might come to pass?" Sure, but that ain't today, and that isn't anytime soon. I said, because we still have remedies, and those remedies are our court systems. And I said, and so far I'm winning, which means I'm getting remedy.
So, what we're doing is paving, we're the forerunners of exercising our rights. Exercising our rights.
Lawful.
We're not doing anything wrong. We're doing everything correctly.
Correct.
And why
that's
wouldn't
the reason
we?
that I'm willing to stick with everybody and do this is because I know the laws back us up. And I know we're doing it peacefully, and we're not a bunch of hoodlums just trying to get away with something. I'm not some meth head that's just trying to get out of trouble while I steal, rob, and murder on the side. That's not. I'll help people put those people away. That's not my goal. So
thank you. No, our intentions are honorable, and we are doing this because we're dealing with corruption where the intentions are not honorable.
Well, and I will. You're right. And see, and that's something even just this evening I brought up with my wife. As I said, we need to pray about it, but I ask y'all to pray too, and that's to give me wisdom and to know. But my thought pattern is to write a letter to the one police officer that I put a lien on his house, and just let him know, look, if you will obey the laws and go back to who they pertain to, and you punish those that commit crimes, and that's your job. But it is not to mess with people unless we commit crimes. And then that's when they can step in. I said, but as long as he will stay true to the law and understand who the laws pertain to, then I'm willing to I'm willing to give him my word that I won't require that he pay me the $21,000 and just say, hey, look, if you will return to the law, when this comes up, as long as you have stuck to that, if you ever sell your house, I will then relinquish your debt to me.
Well, you're being very generous with the contracting. You know, that's good. You know, that you're doing that because you're showing the willingness to be reasonable and fair.
Would having $21,000 in my pocket, living on disability, it'd be massive. But that wasn't my intention in the beginning. My intention was to get them to obey the law and let me be free the way we were intended to be. And so, I don't know. I don't know. That's why I say we're waxing and pray about it. And we're going to see what the Lord leads us to do, because that's the only way I can tell you that I won't go wrong.
Well, I put it all on the line myself. I mean, when the banks and the government and the healthcare system all merged together, I know that we've been screwed up for a long time, but those little merge things that happen really hurt us, you know. So we've had to learn a whole new way of living, or I have anyway, of learning to not contract and know what that means. So in addition to status correction, I think it's really important that people know we contract, whether it's through implied consent or whatever. They perceive us as contracting with them because they perceive us as incompetent in boards of the state. We have to remove those presumptions, and that's what this whole thing is all about, is learning how to remove those presumptions so that we can manage our own affairs, self-govern, move into the private, and know what that all means, know how to operate in the private. But you've got to be willing to take steps that are not comfortable. And, you know, that means sometimes facing this whole thing head on and being willing to educate at every opportunity as well. So,
and be willing to be arrested.
If I may.
Absolutely.
There you go.
By all means.
Marshall Townsend, I feel you and what you're struggling with, but let me give you a little bit a way to look at it. You've got an officer here who willfully tried to enslave you and imprison you and everything else, and if you release that lien you have on him, then there's no punishment for what he's done, and he doesn't have anything to remind him. And
no, this would be the agreement. The agreement would be that the lien would stay until the day he tried to sell his property, which I have the lien on. If he had followed the law up to that point and I'm aware of it, then I will release him of his debt, is what I'm saying. But only at that, if he's followed through up to that point.
I would get that. I would get that in writing. I would make.
Oh yeah, I'm contractual. I'll have that in writing, of course.
Good, because it's kind of like the schoolyard bully. You know, that's what the whole de facto system is they're bullies. They're slave masters, and they're not just slave masters that are of the better variety, the ones that at least take care of their slaves and treat their slaves well, which if you really look back, there were the majority of the slave owners actually treated their slaves like family, like they were part of the family. They sat down at mealtime with them, and you know they made sure that their needs were kept, because they were what kept the whole thing together. You know, kept all the gears turning. And this idea that people that owned slaves back in the day were terrible people is not so. Look back in the Bible and you'll find the same thing. You'll find that most all the people had slaves of one kind or the other, and most of them actually treated them good. But it was that very few that did not treat them well, and that is what we are. Our focus was on, and that was just another way of demonizing things so that they could make slaves out of all of us without us knowing so. So I actually had, it's funny that this is coming up tonight because David and I talked today, and I told him, I said, what do you think about this, son? I said, if all our guys out in Colorado were to tell the judges and attorneys and everybody else, look, you signed this contract to agree to abide by the law and to not in any way, shape, or form interfere with us any further, and drop all this, and we will agree to release the liens. But if you ever violate any free person again, or free man or woman again, or child, you will be subject to the liens again. And he said, well, that would, if they would agree to it, that would definitely maybe get them out of there sooner. But he said the same thing. He's like, well, then, they really don't learn anything. But I've been trying to brainstorm to figure out a way to get them to step back into line where they should be and to release our people. And I thought if we could come up with some kind of agreement, contract, that and get them to agree to it, which may be kind of hard to do, but at least we'd be trying something, because I like you, I just want to see us have our freedoms restored and our rights restored. And if the slaves choose to be slaves and want to be slaves, then let them be, and let the de facto have their slaves, But for anybody who chooses not to be, there should not be any repercussions or persecution or anything else for that. And if they're going to do that, then they need to pay. And the penalties need to be very, very stiff and swift. And that will be what puts an end to them messing with us. There's always going to be those who would rather be comfortable slaves than be free and have to be responsible for themselves. And so if they want to be slaves, let them be slaves. I said this to our sheriff the other day. He said, well, how does this work with other people that don't want to have any part to do with this? And I said, well, if they want to be slaves, let them be slaves. That's, let the system handle them. Let them do whatever they want to them. But the free people, or anybody choosing or wanting to be free, then that's a different story. If they violate one of them, then they've created a victim. Now we got a problem. I yield.
Yeah, I think that's what we're all fighting is that's the one thing that most of us, we're not out to get money. We're out there just to get them to do what's right. And that's what's sad is, like I've told everybody many, many times, I expected them whenever I showed them the law, I expect them to go, oh, okay, well, dang, we were wrong. Boy, was I wrong. That was what was crazy. I was very naive about it, and I suffered for it because my wife says I'm gullible, and I guess I'm very trusting until I get burned, and then it's like, hey, don't do that again. So, that's the thing. We need to just be able to get everybody to get along. And like you said, if they want to voluntarily be slaves, go for it. It's okay. That's your business. I don't care if you want to be a slave. I just don't want to be. So,
that's called freedom.
Exactly.
That's what the Lord gave us, was the freedom of choice. Freedom. He
See, the thing is, most people in slavery is not just when you get taken unyieldingly. Slavery is simply at a job. You are telling a corporation, I'm willing to be a slave for you for this amount of hours, for this amount of pay, and I will work for you. I'm your slave during these amount of hours. Well, that's voluntary. You don't have to. Same thing with the rest of this. And that's what's crazy. People think it's mandatory. And I'm like, no, I don't have to work for you and I don't have to obey you. We're all free. And that's what blows me away that people don't get. But I guess that's why we're all here together, is correcting our status and making sure that we all know what's true and lawful, and we'll run from there, I guess. I yield.
Thank you, you guys. You sound great, and I view the part where people that want to be governed as give unto Caesar what is Caesar's.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Let them be for them, but we choose not to, and we choose for them to have freedom to be there, and we choose not to be there also. So,
we all do have a free will choice.
Sure.
And that's something that cannot be taken because obviously our rights are God-given, whereas statutes and codes are from the book of the dead, right?
Yeah, it's all revenue-based. It's all that money, and we all know what that is. It's not money. That's what I tell people. Money isn't the root of all evil. It's the love of it. And they love it so much that they don't want to give it up.
No, they don't. They're in such a panic.
Not even for freedom. And that's what's crazy. Not even for freedom are they willing to give it up. And not even for their own family members. That's what people don't understand.
I've watched people go crazy. Whenever there's money, it seems like, people go, they tilt. I mean, look what happened with, Chief Marshal Haywood. Really? Over a little bit of money that came through the account? Yep. You gotta be kidding me.
No. And that's
what we were doing?
That's why. I know. And see, that's what I tell people. I want people that don't care about money, that just want what's right. And I think that's where we're getting. We've weeded out the money-hungry people and the ones that just want control. And we've got a bunch of people now that I don't want control of any of y'all, because it's none of my business what y'all do. And so that's what I tell people. We can all suggest, like I told the Texas Ranger the other day, I said, I suggest that none of the marshals that we've got wear their badges or use IDs until we get the notice to all the law enforcement around the U.S. I said, but they're free. They can do what they want to do, and that's between them and God and whoever they approach with it. But I suggest they don't. But they're all, I don't control anybody. I don't care who I am. I'll never control anybody. So, and I think we all see everything.
A sidearm and something, an additional kind of authority or power. We the people are the ones with the power.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, has nothing to do.
And what blew me away was that we've all now discovered that. We all know that now. Well, the few of us know that. Most of the world is still watching reality TV. So,
Right.
That's why they're enslaved, and that's why I don't care about them. If they don't care about themselves, then it's like I tell people, if you don't care about your own case that I'm helping you with, then why in the heck should I care? If you don't care about your own freedoms, why should I care about your freedoms? I'm not going to fight for your freedoms. I'm going to fight for mine, and everybody that comes along that wants to join, hey, jump on the freedom train. Let's rock.
Hey, we all wish that we could just free everybody, but the reality is that it's one at a time, and it's a decision that each one has to make. You can't force it.
And what's crazy is a lot of people don't even want it.
That's correct.
Haven't you heard of these guys that they get out of prison and they realize that they got to get out and actually work hard to get money so they can survive, and they go, forget this. So they'll go in and rob a store for $1 so they get put back in prison.
Yep.
We have people like that.
Well, it happens all the time. They've been programmed.
See, that's what blows. I'm going to tell y'all, I have a brother that's serving 40-plus years. He got 40 years for attempted capital murder of a police officer in Comanche, Texas. And he was off on meth. I mean, we tried to get a business going together, and he blew it off on meth and ran off, and I begged him to come back, and nothing. Well, I left the business, and a few days later, he was in I don't know, he'd done a bunch of stuff, robbed all kinds of places, and ended up getting 40 years. And I told him because we could work on getting him out, because they charged him actually for murder when he didn't murder anybody. One pellet hit a police officer in the neck was all that happened, after they shot him in the ass, of course. And I told him, I said, Mike, I can help you, but I said, you know what? We have to do this lawfully, and we'll do it by using that you should have gotten 6 to 10 instead of 40 because you didn't murder anybody. There's no dead body. And he said, no. He said, I'm going to try to stick it out because there's some guys that are talking about trying to get me out, but if I get out now, I may not get this $3 or $4 million. So I'm going to stay in here because there's no sense in getting out with no money. So if I get out, I might as well get out with some money. I said, Mike, so you're willing to stay in prison for some money? Well, it would be stupid to get out with no money. I'm like, are you retarded? Freedom. What is your? That's what I don't understand. People, not even my own brother. I don't get it. You see what I mean? It makes no sense to me. He has no guarantee of any money whatsoever, but he's taking the chance and staying in prison. And so I'm not dealing with you anymore. You're stupid.
I call it the money god.
Yeah.
And of course, what's on the FRMs? In God we trust, right? Which God?
Yeah, that you know how they hid that? They made it in all capital letters.
Right.
That's how they hid which God.
Right.
And I believe their God are the Nephilim, the fallen angels.
Well, all indications would show, have shown me that it's not good.
Oh,
so anytime there's child sacrificing going on and pedophilia in the mix, which there is, then, how could it possibly
we all know we live in a sick nation. We are in a horrible moral and ethical and spiritual shape. I mean, we are. We've got churches that don't do anything. They go and sit there, and do nothing when that's not what God told us to do. He told us to tell everybody we can. And it's like, it's the whole world is in an uproar right now. And it's sad. And so that's all we can do is pray and do what we know is right and hold out and do what's right until the end. That's it. Whether it be our end or the end. I don't care what it is. Just
maybe we could start a new group called
what? Yeah, I lost you completely.
Maybe we could start a new group called Drain the Swamp Team. Well, we're Continental Marshals, but really we're just part of the Drain the Swamp Team.
and technically, isn't that our job as marshals?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we can call the swamp monsters or whatever. I don't care what we call them.
If I may.
Sorry. I'm going out.
Yeah, go
All right,
ahead.
I yield.
Okay. I messaged Hamilton. I actually talked to David, my son, Chief Marshal Pruitt, about this, and I messaged Hamilton, but Chief Justice Hamilton, but he hasn't responded yet. He's too busy, I guess. We had talked on one of the calls here. I think it was last week sometime. May have been the week before, but I think it was Justice Mickey that had mentioned having a get-together this summer with everybody. And we got to talking about it a little bit. And, we talked about having it I mentioned that in the center of the country would be the best place, because then it'd be easier for everybody to come to the center than it would be to, have it on the outskirts somewhere, whether it be out west or down south or out east or up north. If you're in the center, then everybody has equal chance to get there. And so I mentioned Oklahoma or Missouri here where I'm at.
Texas.
Pardon me?
No, Texas. There has to be Texas. Come on now. Okay.
Well, how's everybody from the north or the east or the west going to get there? See, they got to drive.
I'm a Texan. I don't care. Do you hear me? Joking.
Okay. Well, then maybe I'm wasting my time. No,
anyway.
I
think, to be honest with you, Marshal Pruitt, the biggest problem we have, because if you will look at who we all are, we are Christian people, but almost none of us have money. Okay, that's the biggest problem that we face.
I understand. But what I spent 6 to 7 hours, my son and I did, talking to our sheriff, and he's a friend of mine, and I helped him get elected. As a matter of fact, I campaigned very hard for him for a year. I mean, I had big signs in my yard with people threatening me because of it. I put signs up all over this county. I worked very hard to help him. Anyway, so when I first had started telling him a little bit about what we're trying to accomplish and everything, he was pretty skeptical, and because he didn't understand it. It was all foreign to him, but he knows me. And so he was kind of like, okay, well, I really don't know if I want to have anything to do with this type thing. He didn't say that, but, his body language. Well, we've met with him several times, and I don't need I can walk right in his office, or I can go up and knock on his door to his house, or see him in his brother's gun store, which is on the same property as his house. So, and so is the rifle range too. Anyway, so I don't, we're very friendly, we're friends. So, here a while back, one of the judges here tried to railroad a fella and made some unlawful orders and so forth, and he refused to serve them. And they were talking. He refused to arrest the guy, and he refused to serve the guy with the ex parte orders, which are basically a restraining order, just a little different. And because it'd take away his gun rights, and it mess his work career up and all kinds of things. And Darren just said he wasn't going to do it, period. It wasn't right. He knew the guy, and he knew that the guy wasn't lying, because when the guy was supposedly doing the things that they were trying to charge him for, his deputy was standing there talking to him. So he knew it was all lies and garbage coming from the guy's ex-wife that was just after him. So he wouldn't have any part of it, because it wasn't just. And so that really made me feel good about backing him in the election. Anyway, we've talked with him multiple times, and each time he gets a little more curious and he gets a little more receptive. This last time, he was just writing down case law and codes and all kinds of things. You know, David was just overwhelming his brain with the stuff. And I mentioned that we might be going to have a get-together, and just wanted to, you know, see what his feelings would be on it and all that. He didn't have any problem whatsoever. We'd have his approval, and matter of fact, by that time, he'd probably come down and partake in the meeting, which would be awesome. This county would be a prime county for a self-governing county. My son David knows the leading expert. Matter of fact, he sent him out to Nevada, to Pahrump, and he's working with Gary Bergman to, and then Chief Jones may be getting in that mix too. But anyhow, it would be a perfect self-governing county, and Darren would be the fellow for it because he's a constitutional man, and he's a very good Christian man. He has principles, and he knows right from wrong, and there's a lot he doesn't know, but he's willing to learn. Anyway, so it would just be a really, I think if you know, if we're going to get together, that would be a pretty dangerous thing, you know, with everything going on, having that many bodies in one place. And I know a lot of people wouldn't be able to afford to come and all that, but for the ones that could, you know, having that many in one place could be very dangerous. Well, we wouldn't have to worry about that here because the sheriff wouldn't let anything happen, you know. He's how this all kind of materialized to him gaining such interest in it is when they were talking about charging him for dereliction of duty and abuse of power and a few other things. David and I told him, well, you know, look up this statute, look at that code, and look at this law and that law and this case law and that case law, and so forth. And he did, and he found out that we were right. And so then this next time, that's why we just stopped by to say hello, basically, you know, and ended up there almost 7 hours. So if we were going to have a get-together, I would be willing to. I mean, my house isn't great big, you know. I mean, a few people could stay here with us that couldn't afford to, you know, rent a motel or camp at a campground or whatever. Others could camp on my property. There's room in my yard here for, you know, quite a few. You know, I would do my best to help everybody find the accommodations they need. And I really think that would be a good chance for us to discuss things that we may not be able to discuss other ways. So what would your feelings be on that, Marshall Townsend?
I'm all for all of us getting together, and I don't care when, to be honest with you. It's just, to be honest with you, it just all boils down to finances at the end of it. And I'll be honest with you, me and my wife, we were scrounging change just to get to our doctor's appointment with gas, you know, tomorrow. So that's the type of, you know, right, finances we have. So I'm telling you know, that's why I tell people I didn't get into this for the money. That's for sure.
It sure costs to do it, though.
Oh, it's cost me a ton, I'm telling you. So I don't know. But I'm telling you, I'm all for it. I really am, for all of us getting together.
Well, I thought maybe, you know, that people could carpool some possibly. When I was thinking on doing it would be, let's see, I wrote it down here. I looked at the calendar. It's over the 4th of July week. And I know that some people would want to spend 4th of July with their families and wouldn't want to bring them or couldn't bring them or whatever. So
what better place to go for 4th of July?
Exactly.
Than a freedom gathering.
Exactly. Well, we're repeating the same thing we did in 1776.
I hear you.
We're declaring, look, we're free.
Yep.
Okay, so I was thinking June 30th to July 9th.
You guys, we would have to have protection.
Well,
I think all of us going up there, that'd be a lot of protection. But you're correct.
You guys have to understand that this county is the second largest land county in the state, and we have the least amount of population in the whole state.
Which is great for when you get there, you know. But for people that are going to be traveling long distances, you know, anything can happen. I mean, you know, there are some that would love to get us into one area, you know, or
right,
a group of
right.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why we gave Darren a whole bunch of stuff the other day again, and he's, you know, I know him, and I know he's going to be he's not going to be able to help himself. That's how we've got to where we are now, to him kind of understanding a bit, is because of each time we see him, we give him a little bit something else to chew on, and every time he does. And so the next time he's more curious, and he's got more of an appetite, and so we just keep feeding him. And so I know that he ain't going to let nobody. I mean, this is his county.
We'd have to have a higher level of protection than that.
Well, darling, I guess you better go to another planet, because you're
it's the highest elected official they got in the county.
If you think this is safe,
I
or
hear
going
what you're
to be
saying,
safe, if you think this life is safe, if you think there's anything secure about anything, you're delusional. This is a dangerous proposition, and yeah, there's going to be some of us persecuted and some of us dead and so forth. Well, then it was obviously your time, or the Lord wouldn't have allowed you to go in the first place. And you know, you're just going to have to suck it up. And if we run off of fear, we ain't never going to get nowhere, people. Nowhere.
Let me give you a prime example on that there, Marshall Pruitt. I was in the Persian Gulf War, and we were fixing to take off in some helicopters to go take Al-Jabar Airport when the war first started. And I was the youngest doc just about in the Persian Gulf War. I mean, I was like an E3 peon nothing, but yet I had 300 Marines, and so they, because of my training, so they sent me in, and they had this meeting, and one of the colonels stood up and said, "Look, we're going to make Marine Corps history, and we're going to take this airport." And this major stands up and said, "Sir, can I say something?" He said, "Sure, go ahead." He said, "Sir, every time that Marines have made Marine Corps history, they've died." He said, "Well, I guess one way or the other, we're going to make Marine Corps history, aren't we?" And I was like, wow, okay. So, yeah, one way or the other, we're going to make history. Now, we may die doing it, and we may stay alive doing it.
preferably the latter of the two. For some reason, it seems easier to work on this end.
I completely agree with you.
If somebody doesn't feel secure, or if they're scared or whatever, don't want to come, that's fine. You know, this is just for the ones that choose to want to get together and move forward. You know, if we don't keep working at this, we don't move forward, and if we don't move forward, we're done. So very quickly, and the ones that are already involved are in grave danger then, because things are heating up, and if you think that they're going to stop with just a few out there in Colorado and few in Texas, few in New Mexico, and a few here and there. They ain't gonna stop, and it's going to get nothing but worse for us. We got to move forward. We've got to move forward very quickly. So my point is that this county just doesn't have the resources, and Darren controls them all. There's only there's one other. Let's see. No, there's two. There's 1.5 other towns in, because one of the towns is halfway in this county and half in the next county, and Darren is actually friends with that sheriff up there in that county too. But there's only 1.5 other towns that have a police force, and there's only a couple of the town I'm in here has one, and that's the county seat. And Darren tells him what to do. And then there's the one down in Winona, the next town down from us. It has, I don't know, 3 or 4 officers in the whole department. I mean, it's and Darren only has, I think he only has 4 full-time deputies. So it's, I mean, you have to understand that it's, we would so farly greatly outnumber and everybody. And here in Missouri, you don't need a concealed carry. You can carry concealed, you can carry open. You got it, you carry. There's a
well, I think it sounds great. I'll be honest with you, as far as my situation, I've got, 13 animals here. So right now I'm kind of pinned to the property. I don't really have anybody that can,
Well, I was more just throwing it out there to, see what Marshall Townsend thought of the idea, because, as I thought about it, first I thought, well, because when I first moved here, we had a real corrupt sheriff here. I mean, really corrupt, and they came after me with
and listen, I don't mean to cut you off or anything, but the call is about exiting Babylon and correcting your status. And I don't know if Pam is on the line or not, but earlier this week it sounded like she might come on. Pamela, are you there? Well, apparently not. I don't know who's on the call now.
I know that's something Schubert always does. He always has the computer he can look at and see how many people. I don't have a clue how that thing works. I don't even know what site to go on.
Yeah, I don't know how to do that.
Well, when I came on the call, there was only, I think, 5 people on the call. So, and I think I heard a couple drop off. So.
Yeah, that's all that's on the call now.
Pardon me?
He's here, but your friend Pamela's not.
Oh, okay.
Hi, Schubert.
Schubert in the background?
I stay in the background. That's where I live.
I was thinking Schubert's always in the background someplace. He's that little shadow peeking around going, I got you.
Wow. Well, since there are not that many people on the call, open floor, you can talk about whatever you want.
I wanted to ask Marshall Pruitt if he thought that the sheriff would offer a level of protection if something were to happen out there, because obviously, let me finish real quick though. Obviously, we would have to put it out on the calls, and then everybody would have to set a time where they would be traveling out that direction to be easy pickings.
Right. Well,
actually, I think there should be a level of
Well, that was what I was saying. You know, I mean, with people traveling, you know, and all that information being out there, which we wouldn't have any way of really keeping it under wraps.
Yeah,
you know? So
Signal.
It would be out there.
Ladies and gentlemen, start using Signal. I mean, I've told everybody to start using Signal for all texting. Stop texting anything. Stop calling. Use Signal for calling because it just encrypts everything, which means just one more step that they have to go through to try to find out what the hell we're doing. And that's one step ahead we can stay.
Right. There's no sense in just making it easy breezy, right?
No, and that's my point. If we're going to do this, then we talk about it and we schedule it on Signal, and it never is discussed on any of our calls.
Yeah, regardless about what anybody says about DW, I really feel as though everybody plastering that on Facebook was what gave them the opportunity to get the upper hand.
I do too. I completely agree. And people bragging about us already going out there and getting them out before we even got out there. That was stupid.
Yeah, that was very...
Security was nasty with that.
That was bad. Really was. But you guys are awfully brave to do what you did, you know, and thank you.
Well, you know, like I tell people, I would have done it for... You know, my whole thought was I wouldn't want to be in jail one second longer if I had to be in there. So if I have the ability to get there and help somebody get out, why wouldn't I? I would. Oh my God! Can you imagine if you were the one in there, like we were after a while? You know. But that's my point.
Absolutely.
I knew that even when we were picked up, locked up for 5 days, I knew that I had good, honest, ethical, moral people working behind the scenes all ready for us. See, that's the difference. You know, because just like I tried to tell Marshall Haywood after the fact, she goes, well, I didn't send y'all out there. I said, how do you say you did? I have a mandate of a piece of paper that you signed giving us, and it says mandate. I said, but so don't shuck responsibility. I said, you know, if you sent us, just say you sent us. It's okay. I went. It's okay. I'm not mad, but don't shuck responsibility. And that was one thing that really ate me up about her was I you know, come on. Any boss would say, look, I sent him out there, and I'm sorry. That was my fault. I should have planned things better. I should have done something different. But there was not one of those words was ever mentioned. I never got a phone call just to say, I'm sorry that you got arrested. Nothing.
No.
Other than a bunch of y'all, you know, a bunch of the people that, you know, we went out.
And then a donation was made to cover your expenses, and you never got that either, did you?
No. In fact, there was a total of $1,400 and something. I sent it to the assembly that we were out. And in fact, what was crazy is I had to go work for Justice Hamilton for 2 weeks and work like a dog. Not that he didn't need the help, but he needed it anyways, and he paid me for working for him. But I had to do that just to make bills. I mean, I didn't have a choice.
Right.
You know? So, and
I'm
everything
so
I made
sorry
went right back.
that went like that.
You know what? And this is what me and my wife had both said. If it makes everything better, then we both think it was worth it. As long as but if we're all going to sit back and go, forget it, you know, oh, well, y'all got arrested, you know, we're all going to run now because we're scared. Well, then it wasn't worth it, you know.
Right.
And
I don't see anybody running, you know. It just doesn't seem like the best time to really, you know, promote it as much to, you know, to get others involved or to get others to take an oath to become a Continental Marshal. I mean, I think that's a real personal thing anyway. You know, each one has to make that decision on their own.
Oh, yeah. And that's what I tell everybody. In fact, that's what I tell my wife with, you know, whether she gets her driver's license or not, that's her decision. You know, everybody has to make that choice themselves. And I don't care who you are. And I leave that right even to my wife, so why wouldn't I leave it to anybody else?
Yeah, certainly anyone, that steps up to the plate to fill these positions, you know what you're getting into. If you don't, you better get educated.
You better look around to the rest of us.
Right.
Look around,
anything can happen.
If you notice, everybody that's here has either been arrested or something has gone wrong with the corporation, and that's why we're all here. Almost everybody here has had a problem with the law in the past.
Yeah.
And
something
it's all
or other,
criminal.
Yeah.
Pointing
to corruption. I just
exactly.
I look at it like that. It's like it's corruption.
Yep.
It's thick. It's everywhere. And
that's why I laugh every time I hear somebody. I mean, and you would be shocked. I probably hear 4 or 5 times a week people say, "Well, I've got the most corrupt county in the nation." I'm like, if you only knew.
I know.
It ain't just yours.
It's how we all feel. It's like, oh, nothing could be worse than this place. I'm in the worst part.
Our own hell.
Right. Yeah, it's true.
And I laugh because everybody says it. I'm like, wait, do you not hear all saying the same damn thing?
Those were the very words that came out of my mouth when I first got involved in this. And all those guys, Bruce Doucette included, were very quick to stop me and say, yeah, that's the way it is everywhere.
Yeah, people in Florida, you just don't know my county. It's the worst. Well, I heard
I'm sure.
From California just yesterday.
One of these days, maybe we'll just make a game out of who's got the most corrupt county. Let's see who can get to number 5, number 6, number 7.
Put a pin on the board every time we find a corrupt place.
Right, exactly.
Like a porcupine.
Not a bad idea, I mean, we have to make fun of this stuff as much as we can, possibly. I mean, when the women that George Soros was hiring and the Clintons were hiring, the paid provocateurs to do the protests, and the women came out in their vagina suits and stuff, oh, my goodness. I was like, okay, well, we need that data for our training purposes. This is a victim of mind control.
Oh, well, yeah. And what's crazy is what people see. This is what baffles me. People watch TV so much that they believe everything that's being told to them. And so their mindset is, oh, my God, look at this, look at that. That is nowhere near the truth of the story. Because there's been, 10, 15 shootings now, and most of them have been fake.
Right.
Sandy Hook was faked, and it's now been proven. So it's like, at what point are the American people going to say, hey, stop?
Well, I think that is kind of happening, actually, now. I mean, I'm seeing a lot more people that are standing up.
You're right. And like I told people on one of the sites today, we have to understand that in the Bible it talks about the apocalypse and everybody else talks about the apocalypse. It simply means the revealing. Okay, that's all it really means, is the revealing. So what we're seeing is the revealing of the truth is finally coming out. And all will be known. Nothing will be hidden.
It's been coming out. There is stuff that is coming out that, oh, my goodness, it's for a little bit there. And I don't know. It's hard to keep up with everything. But, this information that is coming out about the human trafficking, child trafficking, and the sickness, that is, it's coming out bigger now than ever, and the first time, I think, right? In history. It's been going on for thousands of years.
Yeah, it's sick. And I think
it is. That we might be taking it down for the first time ever. And isn't that exciting?
Yes, very much so.
So I've got an idea. Since there's so few of us on the call, why don't we just pull the DS11 and just go over it?
Guys, I'll be honest, I've already got mine filled out. The one thing that I will tell everybody is do not follow those instructions to send it to your Secretary of State at your own state, as Haywood was telling us, with only $60. Because come to find out, Mr. Deason did that, and he actually looked it up, and he's already got his passport. He got it really quick, and he said the thing is there is no federal code or statute telling the state secretary to send that to the Secretary of State in D.C. He said there's nothing, so they don't have to do any of it. He said so. That's what he ran across. So he said he sent his directly to the Secretary of State in D.C. and got his back quite, I think he said pretty quick, but I don't know what that meant. I don't know what the actual time limit was, though. But him and Mary have had success, and I'm telling you, before those two, I don't know of one person that got them. Well, wait.
I'm still baffled at how they were so expeditious with mine, never once compelling me for private information, questioning anything about anything, and and I did it to the T. And I'm just wondering, I'm thinking that maybe my card is fine, maybe my passport is fine. I just didn't know it.
Does it have an N number?
No, mine. I was looking on the book, and I'm thinking it's got to be the same number as what is on the card, but mine starts with a P down at the bottom. I was trying to figure out where she was referring to. Do you know? Is it the passport number itself? Because there's no lettering.
Well, in my understanding, it'd be kind of like the military IDs. You turn them sideways, and they have that number. I'll see if I can find an example.
Mine says type, and it's got the letter P. And then the passport number, which has no letters. And then at the bottom, there's a slew of numbers.
I think she was talking about, bottom left the bottom left and top right are the same number as the one I'm looking, this one that I'm looking at.
Yeah. It does start out with the same number. But, I can't tell with this. The best thing that I can think to do from here for myself is to get that certified copy of the application. And, only use my passport if compelled by a police officer. Going forward, I've got my private plates on. They make me a little nervous, because I don't want to draw more attention to myself. I'm looking.
What do they look like?
What?
They just say private?
Private, no driver's license required. Yeah. They're pretty blatant.
Well, let me just tell you, this guy, friend of mine, Larry Asmus, down here in Texas, is working on the Marshall ID, and he did some license plate private ones, and he did private IDs that he can have made for $7, and I think he said the plates could be made for $35. But I'm telling you, they look so awesome. They've got all the laws. It takes no non-commerce. I mean, all of it on there very plainly, but still looks like an actual plate. And the number, he uses his birth date and some other, his birth date, his initials, and something else. And that's his ID number, and that's his license plate number.
How long has he been driving with those? or traveling
Now
the
that
South?
they expire. His old driver's license was from Colorado, and they expire, I think, this month. So he's been running these across me to see how I like them, and I sent them to Justice Hamilton. He said, they look really good. So I was like, yeah, that's what I thought. So he's the one.
I'm getting myself. Yeah, I'm trying to just get myself mentally prepared. Okay, and I think of it like this. I spent a lot of time in Cozumel, and that's what you use. When you travel, you don't use a driver's license or anything like that. You always use your passport, and that includes for driving on the island. And it shouldn't be any different than here. The passport is supposed to be more valid than a driver's license.
Correct.
So, yeah, I'm just remembering those things and kind of thinking of it like that. If I do get pulled over, I've got a valid
So the little square that's at the top right-hand corner, the little square that's at the top of the right-hand corner, is that for the Department of State?
Okay, I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry I interrupted you as well. The square box that has the DO and the D and the DEP and dots and expires, is that what could be for the Department of State? Because I don't know what any of that means.
I have no idea. Man, I've never had a passport in my life, so I don't know.
But you filled out the DS-11, right?
Yes. Oh, you're asking me about my DS-11? I'm sorry. Let me grab it real quick. Yeah, hold on. I'm sorry. Let me grab mine real quick. Get my file. Where you at?
There's a website online where you can. We're going to go ahead and just stop the recording too.
Yeah, here's mine.
Get into any private business. Is that okay with you?
Sure.
Oh yeah, that's fine.